unknown, still far outstripped our collective comprehension.
In societies dominated by modern conditions of production, life is presented as an immense accumulation of spectacles. Everything that was directly lived has receded into a representation. The images detached from every aspect of life merge into a common stream in which unity of that life can no longer be recovered. Fragmented views of reality regroup themselves into a new unity as a separate pseudo-world that can only be looked at. The specialization of images of the world evolves into a world of autonomous images where even the deceivers are deceived. The spectacle is a concrete inversion of life, an autonomous movement of the non-living. The spectacle presents itself simultaneously as society itself, as a part of society, and as a means of unification. As a part of society, it is the focal point of all vision and all consciousness. But due to the very fact that this sector is separate, it is in reality the domain of delusion and false consciousness. The unification it achieves is nothing but an official language of universal separation. The spectacle is not a collection of images. It is a social relation between people that is mediated by images. Understood in its totality, the spectacle is both the result and the project of the dominant mode of production. It is not a mere decoration added to the real world. It is the very heart of this real society's unreality. In all of its particular manifestations, news, propaganda, advertising, entertainment, the spectacle represents the dominant model of life. It is the omnipresent affirmation of the choices that have already been made in the sphere of production and consumption implied by that production. In both form and content, the spectacle serves as a total justification of the conditions and goals of the existing system. The spectacle also represents the constant presence of this justification, since it monopolizes the majority of the time spent outside the production process. This idea that there's a content called the news of the day was entirely created by the telegraph and since amplified by newer media, which made it possible to move decontextualized information over vast spaces at incredible speed. The news of the day is a figment of our technological imagination. It is quite precisely a media event. We attend to fragments of events from all over the world because we have multiple media whose forms are well suited to fragmented conversation. This is why I think it accurate to call television a curriculum. As I understand the word, a curriculum is a specially constructed information system whose purpose is to influence, teach, train, or cultivate the mind and character of youth. Television, of course, does exactly that, and does it relentlessly. In so doing, it competes successfully with the school curriculum, by which I mean it damn near obliterates it. Americans no longer talk to each other. They entertain each other. They do not exchange ideas. They exchange images. They do not argue propositions. They argue with good looks, celebrities, and commercials. If politics is like show business, then the idea is not to pursue excellence, clarity, or honesty, but to appear as if you are, which is another matter altogether. Television news programs survive on scares, on local newscasts where producers live by the dictum, if it bleeds, it leads. Drug, crime, and disaster stories make up most of the news portion of the broadcasts. Fearmongers make the scares all the more credible by backing up would-be experts' assertions with testimonials from people the audience will find sympathetic. Criminologists have documented that the amount of coverage a crime victim receives affects how much the attention police devote to the case and willingness of prosecutors to accept plea bargains. Mostly our fears are domestic, and so are the eerie invaders who populate them. Killer kids, men of color, monster moms. The stories told about them are like War of the Worlds, oblique expressions of concern about problems that Americans know to be pernicious but have not taken decisive action to quash. Problems such as hunger, dilapidated schools, gun proliferation, and deficient health care for much of the U.S. population. The short answer to why Americans harbor so much misbegotten fears is that immense power and money await those who tap into our moral insecurities and supply us with symbolic substitutes.
The president was shooting bombs overseas, yet I'm a bad guy because I've sang some rock and roll songs. And who's a bigger influence, the president or Marilyn Manson?
Do you know,
I'd like to think me, but I'm going to go with the president.
do you know that the day that Columbine happened, the United States dropped more bombs on Kosovo than any other time during that war?
I do know that, and I think that that's really ironic, you know, that nobody said, well, maybe the president had an influence on this violent behavior. No, because that's not the way the media wants to take it and spin and turn it into fear, because then you're watching television, you're watching the news, you're being pumped full of fear. There's floods, there's AIDS, there's murder, cut to commercial, buy the Acura, buy the Colgate. If you have bad breath, they're not going to talk to you. If you got pimples, the girl's not going to fuck you. And it's just it's a campaign of fear and consumption. And that's what I think that it's all based on, is the whole idea that keep everyone afraid and they'll consume. Mm-hmm. And that's really
right.
As simple as it can be boiled down to.
Right. If you were to talk directly to the kids at Columbine or the people in that community, what would you say to them if they were here right now?
I wouldn't say a single word to them. I would listen to what they have to say, and that's what no one did.
The typical capitalists are lovers of power rather than sensual indulgence. But they have the same tendency to crush and to take tribute that the cruder types of sensualism possess. The discipline of the capitalist is the same as that of the frugalist. He differs from the latter in that he has no regard for the objects through which productive power is acquired. He does not hesitate to exploit natural resources, land, dumb animals, and even his fellow man. Capital to such man is an abstract fund, made up of perishable elements, which are quickly replaced. The frugalist stands marked in contrast to the attitude of the capitalist. The frugalist takes a vital interest in his tools, his land, and the goods he's produced. He has a definite attachment to each. He dislikes to see an old coat wear out, an old wagon break down, or an old horse go lame. He always thinks of concrete things, wants them, and nothing else. He desires not land, but a given farm, not horses or cattle and machines, but particular breeds and implements. Not shelter, but a home. He rejects as unworthy what is below standard and despises luxurious what is above or outside of it. Dominated by activities, he thinks of capital as a means to an end. If enough dishonest merchants water their milk, more and more customers will forget what normal milk tastes like and buy only the cheaper watered-down variety. Technological change is neither additive or subtractive. It is ecological. I mean ecological in the same sense as the word is used by environmental scientists. One significant change that generates total change. If you remove the caterpillars from a given habitat, you are not left with the same environment minus caterpillars. You have a new environment, and you have reconstituted the conditions of survival. The same is true if you add caterpillars to an environment that has had none. This is how the ecology of media works as well. A new technology does not add or subtract something. It changes everything. In American technopoly, public opinion is a yes or no answer to an unexamined question. We have devalued the singular human capacity to see things whole in their psychic, emotional, and moral dimensions, and we have replaced this with faith in the powers of technical calculation. Large percentages of Americans, irrespective of their backgrounds, do not understand the most basic element of privacy notification. Approaches to literacy must incorporate an understanding of the social and institutional structures that encourage certain kinds of awareness of the media system. digital literacy programs therefore should find ways to highlight the societal implications of this most basic aspect of the new media landscape, with the knowledge that many people need help understanding mundane policy features of this new world. How obediently people accept explanations that begin with the words, "the computer shows," or "the computer has determined." It is Technopoly's equivalent to the sentence, "it is God's will."